On the evening of November 11, 2003, just before Veterans Day, silence filled the Los Angeles apartment of Jonathan Brandis. That silence shattered when his friends stepped inside and stumbled upon a harrowing scene they would never forget. It was there, behind closed doors, that the life of a once promising actor came to an abrupt and heartbreaking end. In the late 80s and early 90s, Jonathan Brandis embodied the new generation of Hollywood youth. With wide, earnest eyes, a disarming smile, and a natural charisma that lit up every frame, he looked like a child whose fate had been written in gold on the first page of a fairy tale. Born in the spring of 1976 in Connecticut, Jonathan was just 2 years old when his parents began taking him to commercial auditions. His charm was instant, cameras loved him. By the age of 4, he had already become a familiar face across America, remembered as that sweet boy from the commercials. At 6, he landed his first real acting role, portraying a young boy named Kevin on the soap opera One Life to Live. That moment changed everything. The Brandis family made a life-altering decision. They left their home state and moved to Los Angeles, chasing a dream that, for Jonathan, seemed within reach. Hollywood opened its arms. Soon, he was appearing in guest roles on hit shows like The Wonder Years and Full House, his presence marked by sincerity and warmth. But Jonathan wanted more. He longed for a role he could grow into, something deeper than just another cute kid part. That chance came with the NeverEnding Story II, a continuation of the beloved fantasy film that called for a new generation of young talent. Over 600 boys auditioned, but it was Jonathan who became Bastian Balthazar Bucks, a lonely child who escapes into the pages of a magical book. Filming was grueling. Director George T. Miller, worried that child labor laws would derail the schedule, insisted on minimal rehearsals and shot scenes with 3 cameras at once. The pressure was immense, but Jonathan delivered. Though the film didn't become a box office smash, he had proven himself. He wasn't just a commercial darling. He was a real actor. That same year, he took on a far more emotionally demanding role. Young Bill Denbrough in the TV adaptation of Stephen King's It. Bill stuttered, suffered, and carried a pain deeper than any monster. It was Jonathan's most complex role, not for the lines or the action, but for the emotional weight. He stepped into darkness and came out changed. Then came 1993, the year that should have marked his ultimate breakthrough. After a string of solid performances, he landed a lead role in NBC's primetime sci-fi series seaQuest DSV. Finally, Jonathan was crossing the bridge into adult roles. He had grown physically and professionally. Once teased for his height, he stood only 1 meter and 63 centimeters. He had shot up to 1 meter and 75. Everything seemed to be falling into place. Fame hit like a tidal wave. Crowds of screaming fans. Thousands of letters every week. His face on magazine covers. His voice in interviews. His name everywhere. But fame has a dark underside. Beneath the spotlight lurked exhaustion. Behind the cheers, loneliness. He had grown up too fast. And then, it seemed, there was nowhere left to grow. Hollywood, cruel to its child stars, had embraced him only to slowly forget. After seaQuest, the roles dwindled. Scandals grew. Hope thinned. By the time he turned 27, Jonathan was left with the sinking feeling that his golden moment had come and gone, and nothing certain lay ahead. And so came that night, the quiet in Los Angeles, and a pain too heavy to carry. The story of Jonathan Brandis is more than just a tale of child stardom. It is the quiet tragedy of a dreamer the world adored, but never fully understood. A boy who stepped into a magical book and never found his way back. ChatGPT. He appeared on screen like a prophet of the future. A golden-haired genius named Lucas Wolenzak, a gifted teen living in an underwater world in the sci-fi series seaQuest 2032. Aboard a high-tech submarine brimming with scientific marvels, cutting-edge technology, and oceanic mysteries, the young Jonathan Brandis became the heart of the show. With Steven Spielberg behind the production, everything pointed toward a promising future. Steady work, an ambitious story, and a role that might finally give the young actor a lasting place in Hollywood after years of growing up on sets. But, as it often happens, reality was more complicated. From the very first episodes, the show captured viewers' imaginations. Teenagers, especially girls, waited anxiously to see Brandis on screen. He was no longer just a child actor. He had become a phenomenon. Tiger Beat, one of the most popular teen magazines at the time, crowned him as the #1 dream boy. Girls would gather near the seaQuest DSV set, hoping for even a glimpse of him. Sometimes the crowd was so overwhelming that the studio had to assign 3 bodyguards to escort Jonathan to his car after filming. Fame hit him like a tidal wave. He received up to 4,000 fan letters every week. It seemed as though the entire teenage world had fallen in love with his character. The charming, thoughtful genius whose eyes held more than just scripted lines. But beneath the glow of stardom, the cracks were already starting to show. In interviews from that time, Brandis came across like a deer caught in headlights. Polite and sincere, but with a subtle unease behind his words. "I never saw myself as a magazine kid," he said. "As an actor, you just hope to keep working. I didn't expect all of this to happen." His co-star Roy Scheider spoke of him with warmth and respect. "He carries himself with confidence and hasn't lost his head." Then, with a knowing smile, he added, "Well, maybe he uses the fame to meet girls." That part of the story, the teenage fairy tale romance, wasn't far behind. In the autumn of 1993, at a Halloween party, Brandis met Tatiana Ali, the young actress from The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He was 17, she was only 14. There was an instant spark, but the age difference and the intensity of the spotlight kept them at a cautious distance. He seemed older, more experienced, and it all felt a little awkward, Tatiana later recalled. 2 years passed. She turned 16 and he was 19. That's when something deeper began. Something fragile and tender, but real. They started dating, and although their relationship was far from perfect, it meant more than just a Hollywood fling. It was 2 young people reaching for something solid in a world built on illusion, trying to find peace in the chaos of an industry where every step is lit by a spotlight and every choice becomes a headline. To the public, Brandis remained the bright-eyed teenager on screen, but inside he was already struggling to become something more. And while the world fell in love with his character, he was left quietly wondering who he really was. Outside the studio walls, beyond the fan letters, beyond the scripts, this wasn't just a story about fame. It was the story of a boy who became a star before he had the chance to grow up. A story of someone who faced the weight of expectations too early, and the right to simply be himself too late. Almost overnight, they became pop culture royalty. Young, beautiful, and famous Jonathan Brandis and Janet Hubert, known for her role in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, seemed like the perfect couple. The moment they appeared together in public, the spotlight found them as if Hollywood itself had chosen them. Their rapid rise was accompanied by a storm. Crowds of fans would rush toward Brandis on the streets, and he admitted in interviews, half laughing and half overwhelmed, 9 times out of 10, in a club, a guy will hit on her. Love, fame, and pressure all came crashing down at once for the young actors. For Brandis, who had already become a teenage idol thanks to his role in the sci-fi series seaQuest, life felt like a dream, one that began to fracture far too soon. The early episodes of the show launched him into stardom, but behind the scenes, chaos ruled. Even before the pilot aired, 2 executive producers had walked off the project, and tensions between the cast, the NBC network, and the production team only grew worse. Jonathan, at the time, had no idea that the real challenges were still ahead. The second season was both a reward and a curse. On one hand, it meant continuation, a chance to solidify success. On the other, it brought dramatic changes. NBC decided to reboot seaQuest with a more youthful, teen-focused tone and relocated the production from Los Angeles to Orlando. In a single night, Jonathan lost the life he had known. His home, his city, his rhythm. Cast members started dropping off one by one. Some were fired, others walked away under pressure. Brandis stayed. He had to. His popularity was the reason for the entire reboot. The network believed in him. They saw him as the future of the show. They even allowed him to write an episode himself. That's how Siamese Dream, the 20th episode of the series, came to life. a rare moment when an actor was given real creative control.